its first debate over the weekend.
The economy is expected to expand 2.5% this year.
Boosting Korea's ties with its global partners on the sidelines of the Status UN summit.
It's a massive drone attack on Ukraine overnight on Monday and Tuesday.
Arirang.
Global heritage will unite. We share brilliant values and honor the world's most cherished legacies to pass our heritage on to future generations. Busan invites you, the 48th session of UNESCO World Heritage Committee, July 2026, Busan, Korea.
Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. South Korea's benchmark KOSPI surpassed the 5,000 mark for the first time in its history, as trading opened on Thursday fueled by strong gains in auto and tech shares. The country's economy grew 1% last year despite strong exports as it slipped into negative on-quarter growth in the final 3 months of the year. South Korea has become the first country to fully enforce a comprehensive AI law, introducing strict oversight and transparency rules to boost competitiveness while protecting the public. South Korea's benchmark KOSPI surged past the symbolic 5,000-point milestone for the first time on Thursday, capping a rapid 3-month rally from 4,000. On Thursday, the market opened around 4,980 and rose quickly to pass the 5,000 mark within just a minute. The increase aligns with positivity in the chip sector, with the two biggest companies by market cap, Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, helping to drive the market upward. Samsung saw gains of more than 125% last year. SK Hynix saw a 274% increase. Their combined market cap represents nearly 40% of the KOSPI. After passing 3,000 for the first time in 2021, it stayed in the 2,000 range for 4 years until the second half of last year. South Korea's real gross domestic product saw a rise of 1% last year, matching preliminary central bank estimates. According to data released on Thursday by the Bank of Korea, real GDP grew 1.5% year-on-year in the fourth quarter of 2025, a drop of 0.3% from Q3, reflecting modest economic expansion amid mixed sector performance. On the expenditure side, exports continue to grow, while private consumption and government spending both expanded. However, the decline in construction investment deepened, weighing on overall growth. On the production side, service sector growth strengthened, but manufacturing growth slowed and construction activity contracted further. Meanwhile, real gross domestic income increased 1.7%, slightly outpacing GDP growth. South Korea has officially put its new AI Basic Act into effect as of Thursday. The government calls it the world's first comprehensive legal framework for artificial intelligence to become fully operational. Kim Do-yeon reports on the new rules and the mixed reactions from the industry.
South Korea's Framework Act on Artificial Intelligence Law has come into effect. Starting Thursday, the country becomes the first in the world to fully enforce a comprehensive legal AI regulatory framework. Passed in 2024, the law's goal is to both boost national competitiveness in AI and protect the public. One of the most critical aspects of the new rules is the high-impact AI designation. If an AI system is used in critical fields like healthcare, energy, hiring, or loan approvals, it faces strict oversight. Operators must have human managers in the loop and report their safety measures to the government. Transparency is also mandatory. Companies must now clearly label AI-generated content, including through tools like watermarking, so users know what they're looking at. The measures are now in a testing phase, so it will take some time for the results to become clear. Under the new rules, the Science and Tech Minister must now establish a national AI master plan every 3 years. This ensures the government regularly updates its strategy to maintain pace with the fast-moving tech landscape. Governance is getting an upgrade too. The National AI Strategy Committee has been elevated to a formal statutory body, chaired by the president, and now has the legal authority to deliberate and finalize key AI policies, acting as the country's control tower. But startups and smaller firms are worried. They argue that complying with these complex safety and labeling rules requires money and manpower they just don't have. Critics say that while the US and others race ahead, these regulations could slow down Korea's domestic ecosystem. Recognizing this burden, the government is promising a soft landing. The Ministry of Science and ICT says it will suspend fines and investigations for at least 1 year. They're also setting up a support desk to help companies figure out how to follow the new rules. 김도연, Arirang News.
Leading on from that, South Korea is set to fully enforce its Basic Act on AI on Thursday, becoming the world's first country to implement a comprehensive AI regulatory framework. As debate grows over whether the law will guide responsible innovation or weigh down a fast-moving industry, we're joined by Lee Hyun, Professor of Law at Handong International Law School. Professor Lee, it's good to see you.
Hey, good morning. It's good to be back on the program.
So, Professor, Korea is becoming the first country to fully enforce a comprehensive AI law. And from a legal perspective, is this a bold first-mover advantage or a risky move given how fast AI technology is evolving?
I think it's kind of somewhere in between, because what you're seeing here is basically the Korean government engaging in a regulatory sandbox approach. Basically, what that means is you put the law into place and then you have a transition period. And as you noted in your reporting, the government is going to really delay fining people and fining companies if they don't comply with the rules, because you need to have a transition in terms of this process by which the government will now impose these regulations. So the advantage here for the Korean government is, they want to be a first mover in terms of being able to regulate and then, basically approaching this issue in a very sensitive way while trying to also promote the development of the technology. And that's a tricky sort of balance to make between, regulation and protection, but also allowing enough freedom for the companies to be able to develop this technology going forward. I mean, the big risk really is this. If the regulations are a bit too burdensome, then the question is, can the Korean government then adjust these regulations so that these AI companies are not going to be hindered with respect to the development because they're competing with other players globally, right? Like OpenAI, like other companies beyond the domestic market. And so as a result, I think this approach tries to straddle both the regulation, but also the development of this technology going forward.
Thank you, Professor. And one of the most controversial parts of the law is the concept of high-impact AI, which triggers direct legal obligations. Do you think the standard is legally clear enough, or does this risk creating uncertainty and disputes down the line due to its ambiguity?
Yeah, inevitably, whenever you have regulation, it's going to have to be clarified later. And usually what that means is either in practice, but typically through litigation in the courts, whenever these issues then arise, the courts will then have to give some definition to these terms. However, when it comes to these regulations, because you have a year to sort of play this out in the market, then I think these companies and the regulators will then have more time, hopefully, to address these specific concerns. But because this is such a fast-paced development of technology, you're going to have situations where the regulations don't necessarily address these issues in a clear way. And so as a result, when it comes to this high touch or this high impact AI that's going to have effects on individuals' lives, a year is probably not enough time to resolve all these issues. So inevitably, there's going to be hiccups, there are going to be bumps along the road, and there's going to be eventually be court litigation probably on these kinds of questions. So as a result, I think when it comes to high impact, particularly as it relates to individuals and their rights, I think what you're going to see is probably more development of these issues going forward, and then the courts getting involved to resolve some of these ambiguities.
So AI startups are arguing that the real fear isn't fines, but being labeled as illegal due to procedural violations. Now, how serious is this concern under administrative law, and what safeguards do you think there should be in place to prevent over-deterrence of innovation?
Right. I mean, I think this is really the crux of the problem because the government is regulating this industry now, and properly so, because people's lives can be really impacted and harmed by the use of AI. So for instance, right, if you're going through a job application and the company uses AI to, reject you, or a loan application, for instance, or college admission even, if colleges uses AI to determine who's fit to enter a university, I mean, these kinds of issues obviously have a lot of impact in society. But on the flip side, right, the regulators have fines, and not just fines, which is not necessarily so overwhelming. These penalties financially are not that significant in comparison to some of these companies. However, there is a damaging element if they're seen to be not complying with the regulations, because in the future, if you're labeled to be undertaking illegal activity, the government may sort of prevent you from receiving more research and development funds from the government. And so I think that becomes probably a big issue for a lot of these tech firms, especially the smaller ones that really are dependent on this technology to be able to access government money. So I think in this case, there is the danger for some of these companies to be able to be labeled as engaging in illegal activity for the purposes of receiving government funding later.
Now, there's also some growing concern that domestic firms will face strict enforcement while foreign AI big tech firms remain effectively out of reach. So do you think this new law has the legal tools to address this imbalance, or is reverse discrimination inevitable?
Yeah, that's a great question, because this really goes to the extraterritorial application of this rule. What that means is this is a Korean law, but the question is, what reach will this have on some of the big major global tech companies like Meta, like Google, for instance, and OpenAI, who are obviously, all of us know these companies who are engaging in development of AI, and people are using them here in Korea. And so the question really is, can the Korean law reach these companies? Because basically the theory or the application of the law here in Korea is, if you're serving the Korean market, you have to play by Korean rules. And so in this case, these foreign companies like Google will have to then make adjustments and have a presence here, so that if, and the law requires this, they have to have a domestic representative, so that in the event that they are found to be in violation of the rules, that their local representative will be held liable and can address these concerns for the Korean regulators. So in this case, I think time will tell whether or not these big companies will have to make significant adjustments, certainly within the Korean market, but whether or not we'll have an application broadly, I think it remains to be seen. But I think Korea, being a first mover, I think is shaping the policy now going forward for a lot of countries who will now, I think, benchmark Korea's rules and see how they play out for their own regulatory systems.
Okay, thank you for joining us this morning, Professor. We appreciate your insight as always.
No, thanks for having me.
Speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos on Wednesday, US President Donald Trump says diplomacy, not military force, will guide his push for US control of Greenland as he moves to ease tensions with Europe. Lee Seung-jae has more.
President Donald Trump has signaled a major shift in his controversial push to bring Greenland under US control, backing away from the use of military force while continuing to press his case diplomatically. Speaking Wednesday at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Trump reiterated his belief that Greenland, a semi-autonomous territory of Denmark, must fall under U.S. control for global and American security.
You know, when I see what's happening with Greenland, I wonder, because I want Greenland for security. I don't want it for anything else. We have so much rare earth, we don't know what to do with it. We don't need it for anything else.
Trump acknowledged that the United States could theoretically take the island through overwhelming military power, but stressed he would not do so. At the same time, Trump announced that he was canceling a planned round of tariffs on 8 European countries that oppose his proposal for Greenland. The decision followed talks with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, which Trump described as highly productive. Just days earlier, Trump had threatened to impose a 10% tariff on goods from Britain, France, Germany, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, the Netherlands, and Finland starting February 1st, with rates rising to 25% by June if no deal was reached on what he called a complete U.S. purchase of Greenland. In a social media post, Trump said he and NATO leadership had established a framework for a future agreement covering Greenland and the broader Arctic region, calling it beneficial for both the United States and NATO allies. Despite the rollback on tariffs, tensions remain high. The European Parliament formally suspended ratification of a U.S. trade deal on Wednesday in protest, calling Trump's earlier tariff threats political blackmail. European lawmakers say negotiations will not resume until those threats are fully withdrawn. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo has been sentenced to 23 years in prison, 8 years more than the 15-year term sought by the special prosecution for his role in former President Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law declaration. Our political correspondent An Sung-jin reports.
Seoul Central District Court sentenced former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo to 23 years in prison on Wednesday for aiding an insurrection.
The defendant is sentenced to 23 years in prison. The case concerning the use of a falsely prepared official document is dismissed.
This marks the judiciary's first ruling that states that the December 3rd martial law declaration constituted the crime of insurrection under the Criminal Act. According to the ruling, Han's role as a prime minister vested him with democratic legitimacy and responsibility. Yet he abandoned his constitutional duty to uphold the Constitution and the rule of law and to keep in check the president's arbitrary use of power. The bench also criticized him for choosing to participate as a member of the insurrection and noted that his actions could have pushed South Korea back into a dark era where fundamental rights and democracy were jeopardized, potentially trapping the country in a prolonged authoritarian regime and irreversible trauma and loss for the public. Following the verdict, the court conducted a separate hearing to determine whether Han should be taken into custody and ordered his immediate detention, citing concerns over the destruction of evidence. The ruling came 4 months after Han Duck-soo's trial began in September last year. Prosecutors argued that Han, as the second highest official in state affairs, was aware of such unconstitutional plans, yet aligned himself with the declaration by giving it the procedural appearance of having been reviewed by a quorum of the cabinet. Han is also accused of signing a revised martial law proclamation to remedy legal defects in the original declaration and subsequently ordering its disposal. This marks the first time in South Korea's constitutional history that a former prime minister has been taken into custody from a courtroom. The ruling is expected to have significant implications not only for the ongoing trial of former President Yoon on insurrection charges, but also for cases involving other former cabinet members. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
South Korea's antitrust regulator has imposed its first-ever sanctions for collusion involving loan-to-value ratios, fining the country's 4 major commercial banks a combined $183.7 million. Cho Young-eun has the report.
The Korea Fair Trade Commission said Wednesday that it fined the country's 4 largest commercial banks, KB Kookmin, Shinhan, Hana, and Uri, a combined 272 billion won, or $183.7 million for colluding on real estate lending limits tied to loan-to-value ratios. Together, the 4 banks account for roughly 60% of South Korea's mortgage market. And the commission said their coordinated limits on LTV ratios significantly curtails consumers' ability to choose among lenders. The commission concluded that the banks coordinated real estate lending restrictions between 2022 and 2024 violated the Monopoly Regulation and Fair Trade Act.
The bank's combined related interest revenue was around 6.8 trillion won. The fine ranks among the largest ever imposed by the commission.
According to the KFTC, the four banks exchanged printed documents through Excel files containing LTV information in nearly 7,500 recorded cases. Data showed that in 2023, the average LTV ratio offered by the four banks was 7.5 percentage points lower than that of non-colluding banks, and the gap widened to 8.8 percentage points for non-residential properties closely tied to corporate lending. The impact was particularly severe for small and mid-sized enterprises, which often have lower credit ratings and face greater difficulty receiving unsecured loans or additional collateral.
We believe that the biggest problem is that small and medium-sized enterprises and small business owners are facing difficulties because they are unable to secure the funding they need in light of the current economic conditions.
The case marks the first enforcement under a revised fair trade law that took effect in December 2021, which introduced a new provision banning collusion through the exchange of sensitive business information. 조영은, Arirang News.
A wildfire burning in Busan's Kijanggun has been 65% contained as of Thursday morning. Authorities significantly ramped up their response to the fire that started in a factory the day before, deploying 17 helicopters and forestry and military and regional fire assets immediately after sunrise. Personnel are fighting through the coldest weather of the season, with temperatures hitting a season low of -7.1 degrees Celsius and strong winds of up to 15 meters per second forecast for the afternoon. Over in Gwangyang, Cheonglan Province, the damage is more extensive from a fire that started on Wednesday afternoon. The blaze has burned through an area the size of 58 soccer fields and forced over 100 residents to evacuate. With the main fire 80% contained, 26 helicopters are now pushing to fully extinguish the flames.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. The U.S. Supreme Court on Wednesday signaled it will likely allow Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook to stay in her job while she fights President Donald Trump's attempt to fire her. Trump previously told Cook she was fired over mortgage fraud allegations, which Cook denies. No president has ever fired a sitting Fed governor in the central bank's 112-year history. Several justices pressed the administration on why it gave Cook no formal notice or hearing, and multiple justices voiced skepticism about letting a president remove Fed officials without meaningful limits, and how this could impact the Fed's independence. The court expects a decision by early summer. Meanwhile, Trump said on Wednesday in Davos that he was close to choosing a new Fed chair, adding he would prefer to keep White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett in his current role, as he called BlackRock bond manager Rick Rieder, quote, very impressive. Trump and his aides have also named Fed Governor Christopher Waller and former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh as candidates. Iranian state television has admitted for the first time that security forces killed more than 3,000 people during recent anti-government protests. Iranian state TV on Wednesday issued its first official death toll from recent protests through statements by the Interior Ministry and Iran's Martyrs Foundation. It said 3,117 people were killed, adding that 2,427 of the dead were civilians and security forces, without detailing the rest. Meanwhile, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi warned in a Wall Street Journal op-ed that Iran will, quote, fire back with everything we have if it faces attack, as the U.S. Navy is currently moving the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier strike group towards the Middle East. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang says trillions of dollars in new investment is needed to support the global artificial intelligence boom. During talks with BlackRock CEO Larry Fink at the World Economic Forum in Davos on Wednesday, Huang dismissed fears of an AI bubble, saying the opportunity is extraordinary, even if investment totals look massive. The Nvidia chief declared this is, quote, largest infrastructure build-out in history, urging Europe and global industries to aggressively expand energy supplies and data centers to capture the technology's economic benefits. On jobs, he argued demand can rise even as AI spreads. Prince Harry fought back tears in a London courtroom on Wednesday while accusing the Daily Mail of making his wife Meghan Markle's life an, quote, absolute misery. The Duke of Sussex and 6 other claimants, including singer Elton John, are suing publisher Associated Newspapers over alleged privacy violations dating from the 1990s to the 2010s. The lawsuit alleges unlawful information gathering such as voicemail hacking, phone bugging, and deception. Associated Newspapers called the accusations preposterous smears and said its reporters relied on legitimate sources. Harry described the legal battle as traumatic, but a public duty to hold the media responsible, telling the court that intrusive tabloid tactics have only worsened since he launched his lawsuit in 2022.
A powerful cold wave continues to grip the country, with cold weather alerts being expanded and upgraded nationwide. This morning was the peak of this cold spell. It felt like minus 20 degrees Celsius here in the capital, and the sharp wind was biting my face even with a face mask on. Korea is going through some harsh winter days this week. Meanwhile, heavy snow continues along the west coast of Jeollado and parts of Jeju Island. Ulleungdo, Dokdo could receive up to 15 centimeters of heavy snowfall. Mountainous areas of Jeju Island and west coast of Jeollado might get up to 7 centimeters, so please use extra caution on the roads. And this afternoon's Seoul and Daejeon will be getting up to minus 5 degrees Celsius. Busan topping out at 2 degrees Celsius. Dry weather alerts remain in place across the eastern regions. And this intense cold wave will persist through Sunday, so please plan accordingly and stay safe.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.
A country where traditional and modern cultures coexist.
Where you can explore spectacular landscapes and nature.
Savor the delights of traveling at every turn.
Where Korea, of course.
There are some must-visit places in Korea. Ones that appear in every tour guidebook: Hangang River, Gyeongbokgung Palace from the Joseon Dynasty, and...
Yes, these are essentials, but I want to go somewhere a little different. I don't have to follow the guidebook. For example, filming locations for K-pop music videos or K-dramas and movies.
Traveling is all about taking it slow. A long walk at your own pace, or even zoning out somewhere quiet. Doesn't it sound relaxing?
You travel for the experience, trying something new in a foreign place, de-stressing and making lifetime memories, taking tons of pictures along the way.
70% of the Korean territory is mountainous. Naturally, hiking is a very popular pastime in Korea. Not your kind of activity? Trust me, the view will make the effort worth it. Just catch your breath by the cold stream in the valley.
Korea is surrounded by the sea on three sides. From the beach, you can enjoy a wide open view, as well as various water activities. But the riverside is great too. There's plenty to see and do.
If you're in Korea, you can't miss the night view full of dazzling lights.
Yes, even the same place can have a totally different vibe at night.
Want to make unforgettable memories?
How about traveling to all corners of Korea? Join us next time to explore more about Korean culture.
남겨지지 않아도 괜찮아. 달에 가자. 어두운 뒷모습을 내가 기억할 테니. 내가 나를 기억할 테니.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Thursday, January 22nd here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Niall.
Good morning.
Good morning. Also, Kyun's with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're almost at the end of the week, and today we're talking about something that never seems to lose its shine, K-beauty. So Korean cosmetics continue to enjoy steady global popularity, from skincare routines to makeup trends that go viral worldwide. So I'm curious, Niall, do you use Korean beauty products yourself? Like, what would you say is your go-to item?
You know, I would say that I'm a little lazy when it comes to taking care of myself, and I come out really early in the morning. I wake up at 3 a.m. So I patch on these toner pads and I drive. And if I have a little more energy, I would put on a face mask because hydration and keeping your skin hydrated is key. And with the heater these days and the winter, yes, face masks and toner pads are my go-to.
Considering you wake up at 3 a.m., I would still say that's quite an impressive routine.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the bare minimum that I try to keep up with.
What about you, Kyun?
I use a lot of Korean products from Arirang, which is a Korean beauty offline product chain. It's from like sunscreen to hair root enhancers, lip balms, men's BB cream, even makeup sponges, the list goes on. Even today, I actually put makeup on myself.
Oh.
Self-done makeup. Do I look okay? I think I do.
Yeah.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
And just one recommendation that I would like to give to our male viewers is Korean sunscreen. The reason is because there are so many different types of sunscreen that matches your skin type. So as long as you know what kind of skin type you have, you can purchase the right one that matches your skin, because I heard that putting on sunscreen every day is really important to having really clean, good skin. And that's what I do every day. That's one of my daily skincare routines. And I think it obviously helps, so that's a small recommendation for our male viewers.
You sound very informed, so I guess we do have a K-beauty expert with us today.
I love this show.
That really highlights how practical K-beauty is. It's not just about trends, but about everyday products people actually use, especially sunscreen tailored to different skin types and needs. So we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. South Korea has been seeing a steady influx of tourists drawn by the global popularity of K-pop. But music isn't the only thing bringing visitors here, with K-beauty products gaining global attention through online reviews and social media over the years. And now fans and beauty enthusiasts are taking it a step further, traveling to Korea to experience these products and treatments firsthand. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at beauty services and experiences most popular among foreign visitors, the key factors behind K-beauty's continued growth, and the lesser-known sides of K-beauty that are only now beginning to gain attention. As we just saw in the video, K-pop has already reshaped global tourism trends, attracting fans from around the world to experience the culture firsthand. But with the growing popularity of Korean beauty products and treatments, many are now asking if K-beauty is having the same kind of impact. So how has K-beauty so far become a reason to travel to Korea, Niall?
Yeah, I mean, it's been expanding so much, but last year, K-beauty exports reached 11.4 billion US dollars, and that's a 12% increase compared to the previous year. This marked the highest export performance on record, and in this way, K-beauty has established a strong and visible presence across major global distribution networks. Recently, however, there have been a growing trend of people boarding planes not just to purchase these cosmetics, but to experience hands-on beauty care and treatments. According to Travel Trends 2026, 33% of global travelers said that the ability to experience local beauty culture was the most important factor when choosing a destination. And the report also identified Seoul as a symbol of global beauty culture, so that's why everyone's gathering here in Seoul.
So the numbers that you mentioned really put things into perspective. K-beauty is no longer just about exporting products. It's shaping how people choose where to travel. And if beauty experiences are becoming a travel motivator, it seems the impact is showing up clearly in tourism figures as well. So, Kyun, how is this trend translating to actual visitor numbers and also spending here in Korea?
So riding this momentum, the number of foreigners that visited Korea reached a record high of 18.7 million last year, and this actually surpassed the previous high of 17.5 million back in 2019. So tourism officials are saying that Korea has fully recovered and is going beyond pre-pandemic levels in terms of tourists visiting Korea. Furthermore, according to the Seoul Tourism Organization, spending by individual foreign tourists in Korea's beauty and medical service sectors has increased by a tenfold compared to 2019. Finally, many tourists share the keyword glow up in Korea on social media, showcasing their appearance transformation after going through all these treatments, skincare treatments, scalp treatments, and they're actually voluntarily promoting the country as a global mecca for the so-called beauty vacations.
Right, I've noticed this on social media as well when scrolling through Instagram, people uploading TikToks of them before and after, and it's quite impressive, I would say. So what's especially interesting is how tourists are turning their experiences into content, sharing their so-called glow-up journeys on social media and promoting Korea as a beauty destination themselves. So that naturally leads us to the next question. So Niall, when foreign visitors come to Korea for K-beauty, I'm kind of curious about this too. What treatments and services are they receiving?
Right. I think we should take a look at this map of Seoul. The most representative areas for K-beauty include Myeongdong, Seongsu, Gangnam, Hongdae, and Itaewon. Services with the highest demand are concentrated around these key districts, and recently, dermatological and skincare procedures have been gaining particular popularity among overseas millennial and Gen Z women. Compared to major countries such as Japan and United States, skincare treatment costs in Korea are significantly lower, while the quality of the service is actually high, making them especially attractive. Experiences such as getting makeup or hairstyling done like K-pop idols are also becoming popular. And I love this one too. Personal color consultations, they've become very popular and trending experience.
So it's really fascinating how entire neighborhoods are becoming beauty hubs, offering everything from dermatology treatments to idol-style makeovers all in one trip. But beyond clinics and makeup studios, there also seems to be changes happening in everyday commercial areas. So Kyun, what other changes are we seeing on the ground, especially in places that have already been kind of popular with tourists?
So just adding on to the place called Myeongdong, it's a very famous city where a lot of tourists come to. We're seeing large-scale pharmacies actually opening one after another, and this shift really shows the growing demand from foreign visitors for a wide range of skin care products and creams. And the popularity of cosmetics is very strong as well, with major cities and even rural areas with home to many different drug stores and of course skincare stores like Olive Young. One newly emerging trend is scalp care, or tupi care in Korean. Thanks to its strong value for money and systematic treatment programs, word of mouth has spread very quickly, making these services very popular among foreigners. And in fact, transaction volumes for K-scalp care surged by 219% year-on-year last year, actually. And customers from English-speaking countries from America, Canada, and Australia accounted for about 58%, and Europeans actually made up roughly 19% of the total number of visitors coming to Korea for these K-scalp care treatments.
That's quite impressive. So from mega-sized pharmacies to rapid rise of scalp care, it's clear that K-beauty is evolving far beyond cosmetics. So what started as a trend in skincare has now grown into a fully fledged beauty tourism ecosystem, one that continues to attract visitors from around the world. So to dive deeper into this, we'll be speaking with a young person from the US who's had first-hand experience of exploring a variety of K-beauty treatments and services right here in Korea. So that conversation will take place right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Shayla, a college student from the US who has tried out a variety of K-beauty treatments and services. So hello, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. So have you noticed a growing trend among your friends of traveling to Korea specifically for K-beauty experiences?
Yeah, actually, I have noticed that among my friends, especially women of color, there's an increased growth in traveling to Korea specifically for K-beauty treatments or skincare treatments. And a lot of my friends guise it under the fact that they want to visit me, but what they actually want to do is go to Korean beauty clinics or go to pharmacies to find little trinkets and skincare goods, as well as visit Olive Young, which is a large chain skincare and makeup store. It's a little bit funny, but it's understandable because over the past 10 years, from what I've observed, Korea has really gained growth in skincare innovation and technology. But because of this constant innovation and development, people trust Korean beauty due to the strong research and professionalism behind it. So I would say that it keeps growing more and more over the years, which is really fascinating. So I'm all for it. I want more people to come to Korea to experience these beauty innovations every year.
That's amazing. As somebody who has done your share of K-beauty treatments and trends, which one was the best, and how was the experience of it?
So I've tried a lot of different treatments during my time in Korea. Starting off easy, I've done many facials, especially when my skin doesn't feel as nice. It's also a great self-care. So a lot of people can easily get into this, but moving on to more intensive treatments, I've done stuff like microneedling and Kikoshire laser treatment, if I'm saying it correctly. And it was to target my hyperpigmentation on my cheeks, and Reduren, which is more focused on skin health and sensitivity, which improves your skin quality. But as a Black woman, I think skin safety and pigmentation care are very important to me. So I really appreciate that the clinics that I went to explain each procedure in detail. And in some cases, I even went in looking for specific treatments, but they turned me down and suggested alternatives that were best suited for my skin. So because of that, I am forever grateful for their level of professionalism in care.
Well, you really sound like a K-beauty expert. Now, out of the ones you actually mentioned, is there one that you want to personally recommend to people who haven't yet traveled to Korea and would like to try out a K-beauty treatment? And if there's one that you would like to try next?
Yeah, so that's hard because I think it depends on the type of person you are. So what I mean is that if you do not like needles, or if you're very timid or afraid of needles, I recommend starting slowly with facials because there's a variety of different types of facials. You can start very basic, or you can go to facial muscle and lifting massages. But people who are a little bit more comfortable with that approach of needles, I think everything I recommend is Reduren, if I'm saying it correctly. If your skin constantly breaks out or is really, really sensitive, I highly recommend that because I've done it 2 times now, and it has really helped my skin calm down a little bit. If you're a woman of color looking for hyperpigmentation treatments, I recommend lasers. There's different type of lasers, so I recommend you talk to your clinic providers to see which one is better for you. But going forward, I want to explore, I think it's called Juvalook, because as I'm aging, I'm noticing my skin is sagging a little bit, which is okay. It's okay to age, but it's something that I want to manage a little bit. But Juvalook is a collagen-producing treatment. So over time, I really want to take care of that.
So for my skin also tends to break out, so I will be looking into that after the show. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just heard from a K-beauty fan from the US who shared how many more of her friends are traveling to Korea for beauty experiences, what she's tried herself, and which treatment stood out enough to recommend. So this kind of first-hand interest raises a bigger question. So Korean beauty care and products have been growing steadily for years now. So what do you see as the key reasons behind its continued global success now?
Yeah, after hearing from Sheila, now I'm understanding that we really cater to individual skin types, and no matter what country you come from. And on top of that, K-beauty places strong emphasis on skincare that improves the skin's natural health rather than to hide it. In recent years, basic skincare products and inner beauty-related products have also seen significant growth. Another key reason for K-beauty's popularity is its reasonable pricing relative to various very high quality. Not only large corporations, but also distinctive small and medium-sized brands have grown, offering products that are more affordable compared to luxury brands. Lastly, it's very attractive and practical in the design, and it's pretty to even look at when you look at K-beauty products, and that's another defining characteristics of K-beauty. We care about A to Z.
And also, I like how you highlighted how Shayla also mentioned how people of color are visiting and how it's catered to a variety of skin color. So that's also focused on skin health, value for money, and design really sets K-beauty apart from traditional luxury beauty brands. And it's interesting how both major companies and smaller niche brands are growing together. But beyond product quality and pricing, global media has also started to take notice of what other factors have been citing as helping to push K-beauty to the center of the global beauty industry.
So recently, BBC spotlighted K-beauty as becoming a global hub of skincare culture. So the British media outlet identified constant innovation and the power of social media as key factors behind Korea's global success. It highlighted that Korean cosmetic products can go from concept to shelf within 6 months. And this is really short compared to Western cosmetic companies' products that may take years for it to actually come out into the market. In fact, Korea is home to around 30,000 different cosmetic brands, with new products being launched continuously on a monthly basis. And I believe it's the diversity and accessibility of K-beauty products that became a global huge success and an obsession, actually. And on top of that, many Korean TV personalities and beauty influencers, including men, all have the so-called glass skin or glowing skin, actually, that further attributes to the credibility of all these Korean products, because people can actually see the results through other people, but not just through other people, but through themselves once they actually find out exactly what kind of skin type they have, and through all the advice these wonderful workers that actually work in Arirang. They're so friendly, and they're like real experts, just like our guest Sheila. And they tell you like what Naira said, A to Z, all the products that you should use, all the steps you should take. So I mean, if you do come to Korea, pay a visit to Arirang.
That's a good tip. So what really stands out is how innovation and social media work hand in hand in K-beauty's success. With tens of thousands of brands constantly launching new products, there's always something fresh catching consumers' attention, and that momentum is quickly amplified online. And we wanted to hear directly from global consumers. So we asked viewers on the Arirang News YouTube channel, which K-beauty products are you most interested in buying in Korea? So here's what the results show. The results show a clear preference for skincare, which topped the list at 63%. This was followed by skin repair products such as creams and medicated treatments at 17%. Makeup and lip products along with facial masks each received 10% of the vote. So these numbers highlight what sets K-beauty apart globally, a strong focus on skin health and long-term care rather than just color cosmetics. So while makeup and masks remain popular, it's clear that consumers associate Korea most strongly with effective, results-driven skincare. So beyond the well-known product style, are there any lesser-known K-beauty items you'd want to highlight?
Yeah, starting a few years ago, I started using retinol ampoules, and it's really good for skin regeneration, but it can be a little bit stingy if you're using it for the first time, and you might break out a little bit in the beginning, so it takes a while to get used to. But once you do, I think it's really great for skin regeneration. I've seen results myself, so I love that. Another one is overnight masks. Like I said, I just like it when I stick things on and not have to worry about it, and then I wash it off in the morning. So that's another one. Hydration is key to maintaining the current state.
I feel like it's usually the everyday products that do tend to stand out. So Kyun, do you have any other products that you think should gain more attention?
Skincare products for men, because I may be overgeneralizing, but men compared to women tend to be a bit more shy when it comes to like purchasing skincare products. Yeah, they don't know what to buy. They don't even know what kind of skin type they have. So like I said, I'm talking a lot about Olive Young because I've had personal experience. So when you go there, a lot of guys don't know what to choose because there's so many to choose from to start off with. But all you need to do is just ask one of the staff members, and many of them actually can speak good English, fluent English, especially in those main areas like Niall just mentioned. So don't be shy. Just ask one question. What's a good product for my skin? And they will start asking you questions like, what kind of skin type? Is it oily? Is it dry? Is it pimply? And they become like the on-site like consultant, skincare consultant. And you just after answering a few questions, they'll recommend like a few products that would just match your skin. And like I said, it's very affordable, so why not give it a go?
Right, it might be overwhelming when you first walk into the store, but there are people available to help.
Right.
So from skincare and treatments to everyday essentials and emerging categories, K-beauty has grown into far more than a global trend. So as innovation continues and beauty tourism expands, Korea's influence on how the world approaches beauty looks set to grow even further, especially as it has become a reason to travel, experience, and share. With new products and new audiences, K-beauty will continue to evolve, and the world is clearly paying attention. So that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Niall.
No problem.
And also Kyun.
It's always a pleasure.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you have the best day. We are News Generation.
저는 만 5살에 바이올린을 시작했는데요. 바이올린 소리를 워낙 좋아했어서 그 특유의 따뜻함과 약간 사람의 목소리 같은 목소리를 갖고 있거든요.